And we're here now on Daf Chav Zayin Beis, which means that the Kohen has the woman stand, and that excludes the Chigeres. She is not capable of standing with Hashem. And then the Torah says, "V'nasan al kapeh," which means that she has kapos yadayim. If Rachmana litzlan, she is a gidemes and she has no hands, then she cannot hold on to the mincha, the korban mincha, together with the kohen. So therefore, there's no ashka is kach. So too, on the flip side, in the light of the equation between isha and isha, who, if he, the Baal, hoya chiger al gidem lo hoya mashka. Ma'bar Ashi Omar kishem she'ilemes lo hoysa shosa. And we're going to take this equation, this hekesh between isha and isha, one step further. She has to take a shvua b'piha, and if she's not capable of speaking, she's mute. Therefore, he cannot be mashbia her, and therefore there won't be hashka, because hashka depends upon hashba. Is kahu. So too, if the Baalim hoya ilem lo hoya mashke, he couldn't be mashke her. And here we're going to add a comment of the Achronim. They say that even though there's no hashka in these cases that we mentioned, Pigeres, Lemes, or Gidem, and so forth, nevertheless, there is kinui. So you'll ask me, what's an afkamina? What's the import of kinui without hashka? And the answer is that this kinui, if she violates the kinui, for example, she's an Eshes Cheresh, and Bezdin was offered the kinui as a substitute, but there's no possibility of hashka. But nevertheless, the kinui, if violated through stira, would asar al baila. And in all these situations, in nisrape, if the Baal becomes healthy again, and the original kinui was implemented by Bezdin, then he can be mashka her. Just like we saw in Rabbi Yossi, that Bezdin is makna as a substitute for the Baal could be mashka her once he's yotzim mibeis hasurim. And here we say Hadron Alecha Arusa. Now we're going to start in Mitzvah Hashem, the fifth parak. And that's the parak of Kishem Shamayim. Kishem Shamayim Bodkim Osa. It means that if she was guilty after she drinks the mayim, her whole body will explode. Kach Hamayim Bodkim Osa. So to the Boel will explode. And he'll suffer tzvias beten and nefilas yerech. Shenemar, based on a drush in the pasuk, there's a repetition. If you look in Bamidbar Hey, both in Psukim Chav Beis and two Psukim later in Chav Dalet, it says Uvo. So in pasuk Chav Beis, it says Uvo Amayim Ma'or Ma'elu Be'mayayich, and it also says in pasuk Chav Dalet, two Psukim later, Uvo Ba Hamayim Ma'orim Lamar. So we have an extra yitur. And keep in mind that in both cases it says ubo, which means there's an extra vav, and that's going to teach us, first of all, as far as the Yisrael Baila is concerned, kishem shasur lebal kach asur leboel, as a result of Kiri and Stira, she's not going to be, and she's now suspect of having a relationship with the boel, she's asura to the Baal and to the boel. Shenemar, and the pasuk says vinitma twice. Let's go over it. In Bamidbar Hey pasuk Chav Tes, Zos Toras Haknos Asher Tista Isha Tachas Isha vinitma. And then once again the Torah says nitma. How do we see that the Torah repeats itself in Nitma? Because it says Vinitma. The extra vav is as if it said Vinitma twice. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva sees as if the Torah had said Vinitma twice, once to generate an Isra, to reveal that there's an Isra Baila, and again to generate an Iser al Bala. Omer Rav Yeshua, Kacha Yedoresh Zechariah ben Akatzov. This drasha that the extra vav is tantamount to repeating the word, and therefore the vinitma means that it says it twice, that is reflective of the shita in Hilchos Drashos of Zechariah ben Akatzov. However, Rebbe never accepted that the vav could be darshan in that way, but rather shnei pamim hamurim beparsha nitma v'nitma. That in the parsha it says v'nitma twice. And that's coming to teach you that the v'nitma, which means an isur, is a twofold isur. One on the boel, echad lebal, v'echad leboel. Bo bayom, the Gemara in Masechet Brachos on Daf of Ches tells us, after a major machlokes that took place amongst the Tanoim, they appointed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah as the Nasi. And as a result, they added many safsolim to the Beis HaMedrash, and they allowed everyone in to learn. And on that very day, many halachos were clarified. There were sveikos that were clarified in the Beis Medrash, and Rabbi Akiva was the one who offered the following drasha. Now, by way of introduction, we have here a parsha of Tumas Kli Cheres, when a sheretz falls into earthenware in Vayikra Yud Aleph, and the pasuk says, "V'chol Kli Cheres asher yipol mehem el tocho kol asher b'tocho yitma." So it means that in the case of Kli Cheres, as opposed to, let's say, a Kli Eitz or a Kli Mateches, the tuma of sheretz is not generated by maga. So, for example, in a Kli Eitz or a Kli Cheret or a Kli Mateches, the sheretz has to come in direct contact with the walls of the Kli. But with regard to Kli Cheres, the Torah is machadesh that once the sheretz enters into the airspace of the Kli, it's mitame mi aviro, the entire Kli, even though the sheretz never came in direct contact with the Kli. And secondly, once the Kli is tameh, then memela, right, as a result of the sheretz and the avir, memela, everything inside the Kli becomes tameh. So Rabbi Akiva is medayik in the Lashon HaPasuk. It could have just said "V'kol asher b'tocho tameh." But why the plural, adding the yud to the word tameh yitma? Eino omer tameh. It doesn't say tameh, which it should have said eli yitma. And what is the yud of yitma that makes tameh into a future tense, as if it says yitameh? And Rabbi Akiva derives from this extra yud of yitameh that if there's ochel, there's food stuff, inside the Kli Cheres, then the tuma that is generated by the pasuk of tocho, which means kol asher b'tocho yitameh, is that which was betocho could be mitame acher. Yitameh means yitame acher. Limed al kikar. Let's say there's a loaf of bread inside an oven that's made of earthenware, of cheres. And a sheretz, which is an avatuma, enters into the airspace, the avir of this tanur of kli cheres, and therefore the tanur itself becomes what's called a rishon latuma, because the sheretz is an avatuma. The kikar that's inside the tanur becomes a sheni latuma. That's what he says here, sheni. Now, what's the status of a sheni l'tuma? So a sheni l'tuma cannot be mitame ochlin, but it could be mitame mashkin. And that's what's called mitame shlishi. So let's say you had mashkin of yayin or shemen shel truma. So you had zaysim or anovim of truma, and the mashkin that comes out of the zaysim anovim, the yayin or the shemen, is mashkin of truma, and now it comes in contact with the kikar that was inside the tanur when a sheretz came into the avira tanur. That truma becomes truma tmeya b'torah shlishi, because there's a special halach in truma that truma is subject to becoming a shlishi l'tuma. And this is all based on sugyas and chulin daf chaf dalid and psachim daf chaf. Rabbi Yeshua was very excited about the drosha of Rabbi Akiva. Mi yegala ofra meinecha Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was indirectly the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva, because amongst the Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we have Rabbi Elazar Hurkinis, who was the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Yeshua Bespilus is saying that if we could take out the offer, in other words, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was already a Shochem offer, he was buried, but let's remove the offer, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, will stand for resurrection. He'll hear Rabbi Akiva. Hayisa Omer, that while he was alive, Rabbi Yochanan was worried what's going to happen generations down the line with regard to a kikar of truma. What do I mean? Osid, he was afraid that in the future, Dar Acher, another generation, would be Mitayr a Kikar Shlishi. They will come to the conclusion that Truma that comes in contact with a Sheni and becomes therefore a Shlishi is Tar. Now, we know that Truma of it becomes Tomei V'Tuma Shlishi, but Ein Lo Mikra Min HaTorah. We didn't find any pasuk in the Torah to establish that the case of Truma is unique, and you could go as far as a Shlishi L'Tuma. In fact, it's only based on Torah Sheba'al Peh. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was afraid that somewhere down the line, based on our Kal V'chomer and Torah Sheba'al Peh, somebody's going to come forward. He's going to say, I have a pircha on the Kal V'chomer, and he's going to be mitayr the kikar shel truma that came in contact with the sheni and is now a shlishi. So Rabbi Yeshua says, as if Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri was alive, hello Rabbi Kiva Talmidcha, which means he's a Talmud of your Talmud, Mevi lo mikra min haTorah shu tameh, shenemar kol asher b'tocho yitma. Which means that Rabbi Akiva takes the word Yitman and learns it as Yitame, telling us that Kol Asher B'Tocha, meaning a kikar that's inside the Klicheres, and that kikar now is the status of a Sheni L'Tuma, the Sheretz is the Avatuma, the walls of the Tanur of Cheres are a Rishon L'Tuma, the kikar inside the Avir of the Tanur is a Sheni L'Tuma, Yitame. That kikar, that's a sheni l'tuma, could be mitame and create a shlishi l'tuma. So now we have a biblical source for the psul truma of tumas shlishi. So we have no worries. You can be calmed down, go back into your grave. Menuchas hanefesh. No one's going to be able to be offer a pircha on the Kal V'chomer and be mitayr truma b'shlishi. Bo bayom dorash Rabbi Akiva. On that very day, Rabbi Akiva darshan with regard to tchumen. There's tremendous controversy about whether or not going out of the Tchum Shabbos out of the boundaries of the city is Doraisa or Drabanan. Rabbi Akiva darshan on that day that Tchumen is Doraisa, based on the parsha of Orei Leviim. With regard to the cities of the Leviim, the Torah at the end of Sefer Bamidbar tells us about 2 circles around the city. Umadosa michutz la'ir es pa'as kedmal payim be'ama. So here the pasuk seems to indicate that we're talking about a circle around the city of the Levium of 2,000 amma. Mikra acher, but in contradiction, we have another pasuk Omar ha'ir mikir ha'ir v'chutza elef amma saviv. So what is it? Is it 2,000 amma, that circle around the city, or it is 1,000 amma? Ef shalomar elef amma, you can't say it's 1,000 amma, kvar nemar, sharei kvar nemar, alpayim amma. Ef shalomar alpayim amma, sharei kvar nemar, elef amma, haketzad. How do we reconcile it? Is the circle around the city of the Levium 1,000 amma or 2,000 amma? And Rabbi Akiva is going to say the following, that there are 2 different circles around the city. There's Elef Amma and there's Alpayim Amma. So what does that mean? Elef Amma Migrash. The Torah commands that with around the city, there's going to be like a ring around the city of 1,000 Amma that's going to be called Migrash. What's the din of Migrash? Again, we're talking about the Orei Levium, right? And that's Linoi Ha'ir, the beauty of the city, in the fact that in that area around the city, on the outskirts of the city, no one's allowed to plant, no one's allowed to build houses. It's open to the air. And that's going to allow for the Levium to use that 1,000 amma around the city for the behemos, for their rechush, for their chayos. And it's completely empty, meaning there's no planting there, there are no buildings there, there are no trees there, nothing. Now, in addition to that, there's going to be another circle of Alpayim Amma. So we have to measure out another measurement of Tchum Shabbos, which is Alpayim Amma, so that we know the heter of the Yoshvei Ha'ir to go on Shabbos from their city, outside their city. To what extent can they go? They can go up to 2,000 Amma. So we see that we have a drasha, a yalfusa from the Torah to prohibit an iser of halicha b'Shabbos, gutzli alpayim amos. Rabbi Akiva holds that tchumen is the oraisa. He points out here in the name of the Achronim that this din of medidas alpayim amma is not limited exclusively to the Orei Levium, but we derive from this halach in Orei Levium I'll call Ari Yisrael, that with regard to all the cities in Israel, Alpayim Amma, Shebesvivo Sa'ir, Nechshavas Kechelik Me'ir Li Yitchumen. So that the 2,000 Amma around the city is sort of nispach. It's like attached to the city and you're allowed to walk there. You're not going out of the bounds of the city. Rabbi Lazar Benoshel Rabbi Yossi Haglili Omer, he has an alternative reconciliation of this apparent contradiction between Elef Amma and Alpayim Amma in the Orei Levium, and he says Elef Amma Migrash, Alpayim Amma Sodos Ukromin. So the first 1,000 Amma around the city is Migrash, but then we're going to have to measure another 2,000 Amma for Sodos Ukromin, that the Levium will have another area beyond 1,000 amma, up to 2,000 amma, meaning another 1,000 amma, where they can plant, and that's for their needs. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, we don't have a source for tchum alpayim amma min haTorah, for these tchum in Dorais. Bo bayom dorish Rabbi Akiva on that very same day. Rabbi Akiva dashed in the pasuk in Shmos Tesvav, Oz Yashir Moshe and Esos Yashir Zos Lashem, bayom u'leimar. Why does it say the word leimar? Ain't Talmud Loma leimar. The pasuk did not have to add the word leimar, and that is because it doesn't make sense that leimar usually means you tell it over to them and transmit this, but here they were all there at the time of the shira. So what does leimar mean? Matam Lemar, Malamed, Shahoyu Yisrael Onim Shira Achrov Shel Moshe Al Kol Daru Davar Kikorin Es Hallel. In Hallel, we have halacha of Aniyah. Aniyah means that the Shat says whatever he says, and then the Kohol responds, what we call in English responsive reading. And Rabbi Akiva is going to derive from the word lemar that the shira was also responsive reading. HaYisrael onim shira achar shel Moshe al kol davar davar. After each pasuk, Klal Yisrael would respond, as we see it in Kriyas HaMegillah. L'kach nemar lemar. Who disagrees with Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia omer kikorin es shma, v'lo kikorin es hallel. This was not responsive reading, but rather Klal Yisrael recited the Shira together with Moshe. And this is a tremendous miracle that through Ruach HaKodesh, the people of Israel knew exactly which words of Shira were going to come out of the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Tosfos has a slightly different pshat, but in any event, and now keep in mind that Rabbi Nechemia added v'lo kikorin es hallel. Now this is lafuke in the Gemara on Daf Lamed Amud Beis, the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer, shayu korin kikotar makri es hallel. Bo bayom darash Rabbi Yeshua ben Hyrcanus lo avar Eov es HaKadosh Baruch Hu ela mi'avo. So we have now a controversy about the level of piety of Eov. According to Rabbi Yeshua, it was the level of avoda mi'avo, which means that even if you take my life, I still love you, Hashem. Shenemar, when Eov tries to justify his ways in the presence of his buddies, so to speak, he declares in the 13th chapter of Eov, Hein yiktoleni, even if God would take my life, lo ayachel. And the word ayachel means atzape, meaning I long for God even if he takes my life. And from here we derive, says Rabbi Yeshua, that the avoda of Eov was the avoda of Ava. He wasn't afraid of punishment. That wasn't what motivated him. He's miyachel umitzapel Hashem, even if God punishes him. But dayan adover shaku, I'm not 100% sure that lo ayachel should mean lo with a vav. Lo meaning to him I long. Lo ani mitzapa o. Maybe we could read it lo as lamed aleph with an right that I do not. She'eni mitzapa. You know, I'm not going to continue longing for Hashem when he takes my life. And therefore, the level of Eov is not necessarily avodah mi'ava. Talmud Lomar, from the fact that Eov responds to the tainus of his so-called re'im, that they claim, oh, he sinned and therefore he's being punished, he declares that I was observant and meticulous to be shomer pi Hashem, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you that I sinned. Ad egva lo asir tu masi mimeni. I am not going to remove my tumah. Tumasi here means yosher and emes. And therefore, I'm not going to tell you a lie that I sinned. I know that I was guiltless. And nevertheless, I could continue with my avodas Hashem, me'ava melamed she'me'ava us. Amar Rabbi Yeshua has a different approach. Mi yagala offer meinecha Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. If only Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai would rise and be resurrected, and he would hear the words of Rabbi Yeshua ben Hyrcanus, Shayisa, he would come to the opposite conclusion as that of Yeshua ben Hyrcanus, And Hayisi Doresh Kol Yomechash Lo Ovad Eovus Mokmel Miyira. That Eov's level of Avodas Hashem was only a fear of punishment. He did not reach the level of Avodah Me'ava, because this is the way you, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, taught us to learn the pasuk. Shenemar, the pasuk says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that maybe there should be kitrug against Eov, and Hashem defends Eov by saying, Ish tam v'yosha yirei Elokim v'sar meira. It doesn't say Oev Elokim, it says Yirei Elokim. So he only reaches the darga, the maila of Yirei Elokim. Hello, Yeshua, meaning Yeshua ben Hurkes, Talmidecha. He's a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, who is your Talmud, that he was motivated by Av. Now the Mishnah says that to the same extent that Mayim bodek her, that bodek him. But it doesn't say who him is. It says Oso Laman. Who is that unidentified person? If the Baal is going to suffer, Baal my Ovid. I don't even understand the Havamim of the Gemara. The Baal is not guilty of anything. And here we turn to Daf Kaf Ches. Maybe the Baal is guilty. The Ispe Avon. Maybe the Baal had a relationship with his wife after she violated the kinu with Stiru when she was Asurah. So Bodki Le Maya, would it be that the Mayim are going to blow him up, even if I assume that he had such a relationship? Ki Ispe Avon B'didei Bodki Le Maya L'didei V'atanya V'nika Ish Me Avon V'isha Hi Tisa Es Avona Isman Shaish Menuke Hamayim Bodkim Es Isha Eina Isha Menuke Bovan Eina Mayim Bodkim Es Ishta. The power inherent in the Mayim to be Bodek is contingent on the fact that he's Venika. But if he had a relationship with his wife, he's no longer Venika Me'avon, and therefore there's no power in the Mayim. It's very strange that the Gemara, to reject this possibility that he would blow up because he had a relationship with her, bases it on the fact that the Mayim are ineffective. How could the Gemara even entertain the possibility that the man would die because he had a relationship with his wife? Okay, maybe he violated an Isur, but he's not guilty of some sort of capital crime. So that's something that the Mefarshim have a lot of trouble with, this Havamim. The Ella says the Gemara, what is also, it means Leboel. So the Gemara says, well, okay, if it's the Boel, listening, why doesn't it mention the Boel? Kiriktani Seifa. In the Seifa, it says, Kshem Shasur LeBaal, Kach Asur LeBoel. So the Mishnah is not allergic to the word Boel. So Gemara answers Liolam LeBoel. But Reisha Aidi the Tani Osa, with regard to the Isha, Tani Nami Oso. So it uses the word Oso to be symmetrical with the word Osa. And that's in the Reisha. But Seifa, Aidi the Tani Baal, Tani Boel. And this leads us to Iboilahu, Shenemar Ubo Ubo. And that's going to be, in Mirza Hashem, our sugya for tomorrow. Let me wish you a great day, a meaningful day.